Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on this panel. This is a topic which is very, very close to the heart of anybody who's been chronicling the change in India, because while we talk about the great numbers of our youth and the fact that we have the youngest population, perhaps, it's also a big challenge, because we need to give the young in India a dream and the skill sets to achieve that dream. So I think that's the big challenge that everybody who is looking at India as a place of opportunity is focusing on. And we've got a wonderful panel that represents different stakeholders in this big journey towards skilling, and I really look forward to a discussion out here. If the numbers on the demographic dividend in India are staggering, so are the numbers on the lack of skills. I think 5% of the Indian labor force is actually trained in the area that they work in. Just 15% of Indian youngsters between the age of 18 and 24 actually go to college. And there is a lot of problems out there in colleges, in the education system, which means that most of the youngsters who are coming out and joining the workforce actually need to spend another 2 years of their lives getting skilled and getting equipped to actually do the job that they have been supposedly hired to or trained to. So this is a real and a big challenge for India, but a lot of positives are also happening. So I think in this panel we will not revisit the problem, but look at the solutions and what has worked, and look at how that can be replicated. I'm going to start with Mr. Godrej. You're doing a lot of interesting work around the skilling area. You've created jobs because of the Agrovet and the entire, the set of companies that you have put out there. My question to you is, when you look at demographic dividend, the term, what are the opportunities and challenges that you foresee?
Admittedly, there is a big education gap, but there is also the fact that small amounts of education can make a big difference. And I feel that short courses, which greatly increase the earning power of people, are very beneficial. We looked at this from a shared values concept. And we decided to try and look for opportunities where both our businesses and people being trained could benefit. So we looked at courses not for our own employees. There's a lot of benefit in doing that, and that we have been doing for a long time. But we thought we'd look at doing things for people related to our business, but not directly employed by our business. And so we started courses in training people with beautician skills because we have a cosmetics business, or training people in appliance repair because we have an appliance business, or training people in construction because we have a property business. And we found that we took an ambitious target of training 1 million people by 2020, and we are steadily growing. And we find that many of the people benefit from the courses. They increase their incomes. The courses are short, so either the people can pay for them or we subsidize them. We work with NGOs. We work with the National Skill Development Corporation. And we now want to do a social benefit. We also want to study in detail the business benefits and keep driving the program forward.
Atul, give us a perspective of what NSDC has done. It's a wonderful coming together of industry and the government to... Can you hear me? Okay. I'll speak loud. No, but can you hear me, Raju? Okay. Okay. I think the NSDC is a wonderful example of a coming together of the government and the private sector to actually address a big issue. I hope this is better, but I will be loud. My question to you is that how far have we come really? Because the numbers can be staggering, but I think you've forged some very interesting partnerships. Atul, why don't you take us through what has been achieved so far?
Okay, NSDC is a unique public-private partnership where the government owns 49% and the private sector organizations own 51%. Our work is based on 3 main pillars. One is to create a vision where we need to skill 150 million youth by 2022. The government and its 20-odd ministries are working on 350 million, and that's how the 500 million skilling target been designed for 2022. Now, second is fund. We fund scalability and sustainability. So any private enterprise which wants to do skilling, let's say up to 50,000 minimum and 70% employment, that's the mandate with which we fund. And this is across 20 growth sectors. Then we are here to enable an ecosystem. Now, it's not just about training, it's also about getting jobs or getting them the recognition. So here, that's why I'm here for. I'm here to make you aware of the skill development mission. I'm here to motivate you to join this, because each one of us has a service streak. And this may be the opportunity that you have been waiting for. And I think that's where NSDC's role in creating this ecosystem can be greatly enhanced by participation of many like-minded people who are here in this room and outside. And the industry organizations, we are trying to create a workforce which is industry ready. It's not just about skilling for the sake of skilling, but against a certain standard which is directly employable by the industry. And I'll expand on it as we go along.
Right. Azul, I've got a lot of follow-up questions on the modalities of how to actually run this program and what are the challenges on the ground. But Frederica, if I can get you in here, from the UNFPA point of view, the focus is on the adolescent girl child. Why is the focus out there, and why? And what is interesting about the focus is that some of the most successful initiatives have been driven by women on the ground. Be it the Grameen Bank model or even SEVA, which is one of our most successful endeavors where we've mobilized women. What is your own experience there?
Yeah, well, I would like to take you a little step back, and also the two gentlemen. It's now this year, it's 20 years ago that we all agreed together on the ICPD, which is the International Conference on Population and Development. And that's the conference where the UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, gets their mandate from. And what we said in this conference is crucial for that every individual can plan their own reproductive health and can plan their own life. So for women, it's extremely important, and specifically for young women, that they can choose their own life. And in India, we've seen 50% of the young women are marrying before the age of 18. So if they cannot choose their own life, if they cannot choose their own fertility, they will never have a chance to get in the companies. They will never have a chance to be fully part of the education system. So a lot of young women are dropping out of school because they get married. So a lot of potential of the young women gets lost in their lives. And so we need to invest in the young women so that they can stay in school and that they can learn the full lifetime they will have ahead.
Mr. Godrej, this brings gender diversity into this entire discussion. Right now, the problem is skilling. Has it transcended to the fact that half those skilled young or unskilled youngsters are women who need to be skilled as well? Is that consciousness creeping in?
Definitely. Some of our courses definitely are designed for men as well as women. Some are largely for women. And we will put a lot of focus on that. And even if they are married, there are still opportunities. Some of our beautician course enables people to work from their home. So in fact, it gives an opportunity for otherwise unemployed women to actually start a career. And we will put a lot of emphasis on that.
Atul, on the gender diversity bit, I mean, I think creating entrepreneurs out of women is a wonderful strategy, because it actually helps them to control their environment or work within the confines of the environment. What has your own experience been?
Definitely. I mean, this is something which is at the core of what NSTC does. But having said that, we are ready to fund any private organization which can come forth with a proposal, and we have a few already running. I mean, there's Mandeshi here in Maharashtra itself, which is working only for women and run by women. So we would welcome more such business enterprise coming through. And all that we are saying right now is whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's wage employment or self-employment, as long as the skilling is leading to an outcome, and that outcome in a wage employment means salary, and on a self-employment means productivity, which leads to a profitable business. As long as can that be achieved, so the training and the skilling has to be reaching that outcome. Now, whatever be the profession, where it can be run from, and how it's going to be done, that is part of the whole game. I mean, it's not being taught in isolation, but it's a package deal here.
Yeah. Ms. Godrej, what are the challenges when you have a target of 1 million people? You have the advantage of having operations across a large part of India. You're also running the distribution network for the agro-vet business and other businesses. So you have the reach into India. How are you leveraging on that? And what are the lessons that other corporates can learn?
When we took the goal of 1 million, it looked like a very ambitious goal. But our companies are also growing fast, and we figured that we train more and more people each year. And in the first couple of years, we didn't take very ambitious goals, but enough so that if we kept growing at a 20% rate, we'd reach that target. And we found that expanding the numbers was not a problem. But now we want to get maximum business benefits as well as maximum social benefits. We are planning a social audit. We are finding it a little difficult to design a good social audit. We lose contact with some of our students because they are young people, they're mobile, they move around. We are now trying to keep contact with the mothers, and we want to keep longer-term contact with the people to actually see what the social benefits are. We also find demand for follow-on courses. Our original intention was to treat 1 million people once, but we're finding a lot of demand for follow-on courses. And once we do the social audit, we'll try and see what are the benefits of the follow-on courses. And hopefully the follow-on courses will be more self-financing. We see a big opportunity for financing education by employers, employees, and by loans. And of course, government agencies and private-public partnerships like NSTC. I feel that the return on investment on education is very high. And short courses which make a meaningful difference should be very easy to finance. And I'm very hopeful. In some ways, it's the simplest thing in the world to educate yourself, but often people lack the motivation. And we also feel that often the barrier is soft skills, and we are training more and more soft skills. Our beautician course was originally for employees, but many of the women became entrepreneurs, which surprised us. So we added on a module of entrepreneurship skills. And as we do a social audit, we will modify the courses to face the challenges and overcome the challenges.
Let's talk about the motivational aspect of that, Atul, and I think that's a big challenge. When you talk about the skilling, one is of course the size and the scale of it. The other is the cost and quality. And I think the push is there, but is there adequate pull towards this? Because it also is predicated by the fact that a skilling course will get you better remuneration. Who pays for skilling? These are questions that a lot of people are grappling with. What are the answers, if any?
Very true. I mean, there was a problem being faced on mobilization of people for two main reasons. One is skilling was not getting the same respect as education. The parental mindset is typically, beta graduate ho jaye, shaadi ho jayegi. So graduation is like a matrimonial passport. And skilling wasn't really finding its place. So there was a difficulty in getting mobilization at that front. The other was that people were not really wanting to, getting to see the outcome and the self-employment or the wage employment as the result of skilling. So that also had to be developed so that people could put the money in. The average income household in India has typically 25 to 30,000 rupees lifetime savings. And that's what they need to put up. So should we go the graduation route or should we go the skilling route? That's the mindset which we have to change now. So what the Government of India has recently floated a scheme which NSTC is implementing called the STAR scheme. The STAR scheme stands for Standard Training Assessment Reward. So any person who's freshly skilled from September of last year to September of this year, at the end of the course has to be first successfully assessed. When I talk of assessment, this is where third-party assessors come to a training college and assess the person, then gets a certification, and as a result of that gets 10,000 rupees as a reward. So that 10,000 rupees, even though it's seen as a reward, it's also partly subsidizes the training and makes skilling more, let's say, a more acceptable education or career for the future.
But tell me, a quick follow-on question. Do employers pay extra? And is that the real crux of the problem? Because if you're not going to pay better wages to a person who's taken the effort of doing those courses or really getting skilled, there could be a lot of frustration, and there's obviously a lot of frustration there.
Yeah, that's the ultimate aim we want to reach. Having said that, it's too early to say, but we have got employers coming to us and saying yes, they are ready to pay a higher differential wage to a skilled person because that person becomes productive from day one. And but when I say it's too early to say, we have done only 1.6 million right now. Next year's target is 3.3 million, and the year after it's 6 million. So even though 1.6 million you can say is critical mass, but no, we're still evolving, and I think the employers are seeing value in skilling, and they are ready to pay, but we haven't yet, let's say, a very firm figure to say this is extra that you
and
get.
you got to get to 500 million.
Yes.
That's quite a journey. Frederica, when you convince women at the adolescent girls that don't get married, get an education instead, get financially independent, do you think, A, that there is a buy-in, because society is very structured over here in that sense, and B, can organizations like NSDC, corporate India, actually work together with you to actually customize programs which could be relevant to these young girls? And do you think that that's a big need gap?
Well, let me say one thing. We don't need to say to the girl, don't get married, because it's not the girl who chooses to marry. It's quite often it's her environment. So we have to make sure that her environment is sensitized, that she's not getting married, and that she can stay in school, and that everyone is willing to invest in her. What the UNFPA is doing quite a lot is working with, for example, skills development in the near future, is to see whether we can all these possibilities for which are available for skills, that they focus more on girls, because we have to see that girls from rural areas, for example, that they can look beyond their own borders. Quite often when we ask girls in their rural environments, what do you want to be? They don't come to further than teachers or doctors, because that's the role models which they have in their environment. So we need to work with the existing government schemes, which are currently focusing far more on boys than on girls. If we look, for example, to the industrial training institutes, we see that very small amount of girls are coming into it. And also, so it's a lot to do with the mindset on how we can work with the communities to see that girls are going beyond their own borders.
But should the others be coming into their villages and their space? Is that the challenge? Because
first of all,
unless there is a pull and a push, yes, it's not going to happen.
First, we have to create a safe space for her, herself, where she can negotiate and that she can live to her full potential and discuss with her friends on what do we want to be, what are our aspirations, what are our dreams. And then we have to create the space on giving her the possibility to go beyond their own way. So we have to work also with, for example, companies. One joke I made last year on Women's Day, for example, when Indian Airlines put the all-women's team on 8th of March, no one was surprised that the plane landed safely. So we have to trust in women that they can do the same jobs as men can do, and also the girls have to know that they can do it with a little bit of extra support from our side.
And that's 1/2 of the population.
Exactly.
So you can't not look at that. Exactly. Mr. Godrej, there are 2-3 interesting trends that are coming together, and I think there's a movement which is going to gather momentum. First is the need gap that needs to be filled, and the second is the intent to actually partner with the government to make it happen. And the new Companies Act mandates CSR. I know a lot of corporate India is complaining about it, but in the skilling side, do you think there are a lot of opportunities which can be helpful?
There are a lot of opportunities, and if you look at Michael Porter's shared value concept, people shouldn't complain about the 2% CSR, because it's very easy to find opportunities where you spend that money and you actually get benefits more than the expenditure. In fact, you should be spending much more, provided you've designed programs that can benefit society as well as the company. And there's no shortage of such programs, and skilling is one of the best, because the return on investment on education is very high. And I have no doubt that if you have a good short course, it will definitely increase income. In fact, often companies cannot hire the right kinds of skills that they want, but it's very easy to find someone with a lower level of skills and train them for that. That's been demonstrated many times over. And there's a big saving in taking someone not qualified for a job and training him for that job. And I'm sure many companies will be open to that idea.
Azul, what sense are you getting? Because since you are working so closely with the industry, do you think a lot of focus is going into how you can marry the two over here?
Very much. There are 29 sector skill councils that have been set up by NSDC. So they define the sector in which that activity is happening. So let's say what a sector is, like an IT, banking, healthcare, construction, building materials, etc. Now, these are people from that sector which form a governing council, and they have a CEO and the chairman. So these people, they decide what are the job roles required in that industry, what job roles are defining 80% of the industry. That's what they're starting off with. And on those for those job roles, they are defining what are the competencies required for that job. And then how do you assess somebody's acquired those competencies? So when your training is being done, that's why I said when it's not skilling for the sake of skilling, you do skilling for a certain job role, a job role which is defined by certain competencies, so that when the person comes out, he or she is employable because the industry has got what it always wanted. It has got competencies for a job role which is directly employable in the industry. So in a sense, we've got for the industry, by the industry, of the industry, and the people who are coming out, the only reason that they may not be employable is because of the general economic conditions and the number of jobs in the market, etc. But the model is churning out people which are industry ready. So there is a very close partnership, and these sector skill councils are for their own sectors defining and going ahead, setting up centers of excellence for trainings, training the trainers, inviting fresh skilling proposals, so that it's like a mushrooming activity. It's kind of going across India.
Mr. Godrej, this is retrofitting a solution to a problem, really, because the real problem is in the education system, isn't it? Because various models have been discussed. I think the German model of actually having vocational plus formal education is a well-chronicled or well-spoken thing. What are the answers coming? Because as somebody who's done skilling, who bears the brunt of the lack of skills, what should be done?
Clearly, there's a complete overhaul of the education system required in India. But that's not something that business is likely to be able to do. And I'm not waiting with bated breath for that to happen. There are many things I can do without that change happening. And small amounts of incremental education have a great benefit. I completely agree with the point that we should not have this false dichotomy between academics and skills. The ideal education system should provide skills and academic learning in small doses, and as he suggested, certify as you go along, and maybe even keep flexibility between the two streams so that skilling can qualify for academic credentials, and a certain amount of academic learning is required for skilling credentials. It should be a step-by-step approach. There's no reason to have a 12-year school leaving certificate and a 4-year college education. Learn as you go and pay as you go. That's affordable and serves the purpose.
You know, many countries are facing this challenge, Atul. What is the study that you have done where you could look at best practices from elsewhere? What are the models that we should be looking at?
Well, very frankly, the models that we are working on are the best, really. But we have looked at the UK model. That they have got 100 years of skilling as a very mature skilling program. They've got a skills minister to be represented on top. But finally, what we have come out after seeing the German, the Australian, the UK model is something which is very Indian, and without boasting, there's some of the foreign countries asking us for our model, because the sector skill councils has been a very successful bid that's come out into the market now. What we've done, to add to Mr. Godrej's point of view, that there is also a new standard that's come in. It's called the National Skill Qualification Framework, NSQF, as of December 27th. It's not been operationalized yet, but conceptually it is coming, and that's to marry the education system with the skilling system. So, as you rightly said, it doesn't. When you hire a welder, you don't say, I want an 8th pass welder. You would say, I need a welder who has welding skills on a certain ladder. And the same way, when you hire an education person, you don't say that you have to have this skills, only then I can hire you. So what is the appropriate way of taking credits from one to the other and have lateral and horizontal mobility or vertical mobility is to be, it will be coming out in India very soon. But having said that, it's just 3 months old right now.
Frederica, what has your experience been? You worked in Latin America, you worked in Africa, you worked in large parts of India with the state government. What can we do to actually, make sure that we can reach out to more people and scale up this whole issue?
Well, but I think what you are just bringing in, I mean, we need to work with the education system, and specifically we need to integrate life skills education. What you were both saying, I mean, the soft skills are equally important than the hard skills. The life skills education looks a lot at gender equality. We need to, if we want to learn people to look through a gender lens, what was the former setting, we need to learn young boys from a young age onwards that there's a kind of equality, that both boys and girls have equal rights for education. We need to work with the parents to show them that they can make investment in the boys and in the girls, because we also have seen through recent research that girls are equally for old age important than the boys are there. So
More
life
important.
skills,
More important.
even more important, I would say so. So for all the countries, it's very important that they invest in life skills education from a young age onward. It also learns young people for how their body is functioning. We know from a lot of young boys, for example, they don't know that women are menstruating. So by the time they are marrying, they don't know that this exists. So if they don't know, how would you expect them how babies are made? These kind of things people need to learn from a young age onwards. This kind of risky behavior starts at a young age. And if you get a baby, unexpected, unintended, what will it do for the rest of your life? So life skills in a way is crucial. There's a lot of evidence that if you are providing life skills from a young age onwards, that young people are developing to their full potential. So life skills is the most important, but then also the private sector needs to create equal space for the boys and the girls. And we've even seen that, for example, in corporates, when you have a lot of factory girls, even their life skills is very important. You have to learn girls how to negotiate. So work also with the factory girls in your place and learn them what is important for their lives.
Is a large part of the problem, and the more I talk about skilling as a challenge, the large part of the problem that we don't have enough manufacturing, that we don't have enough jobs being created at the rural space, and the fact that the moment new factories come up, all of this will perforce come into being.
Well, India has got a unique landscape on industry. I mean, only 7% is really the organized sector. There 93% is the unorganized sector, and there's something like 44 million small and medium scale enterprises. Actually, that's where to organize the unorganized itself will get you a lot of, it'll open up a lot of jobs, let's say. Now, having said that, the small and medium enterprises are the feeders to the large corporates. But our focus has been always to see how jobs evolve at the bigger corporates, and that's what the media kind of catches up. But how do we get, let's say, a beauty and wellness, which is the unorganized sector, and becoming more and more organized? How do even the domestic workers, can they get organized, and domestic workers from being just a maid become a house manager? How this master chef course has made from a cooking to a chef, you know? So there's some things.
I'm going to pick your brain on the SME space, because I think a large part of the bottlenecking in India is at that stage, where be it creating the managerial staff, and you speak about the German model of the Mittelstand and what it has done in revolutionizing, and a lot of the vocational training focus is also driven by the smaller companies, which can lap up the skilled workforce that comes out. What is being done from the NSDC point of view? Because we hear big corporations like the Tatas, the Godrej's actually, being part of it. What about the small guys?
Well, very frankly, the amount of whatever employment data we are getting so far, 75% of our people getting employed in the SME industry, really. So now it's a matter of the corporates who, like say at the supply chain at the end, they have to kind of mandate saying that we will take products from you or raw material from you or whatever feeder activities from you if they are coming from accredited manpower. Automatically there will be a cascading effect downwards where everybody will start saying, can I take a trained person, trained against standard person, certified person, whether it's be an electrician, be a mechanic, or be a miller, or whichever, in the manufacturing industry or in the service industry. So it'll start from there. We are seeing it happen, but you may not have seen the effect so far because it's only 1.6 million done. There are more to come.
Mr. Godrej, can companies, big corporations, also spread the word and mandate it? Because you can look at the hub and spoke model, for instance. One successful company, means the spawning of many small companies around it. The ecosystem gets created. Should big corporations be doing that?
I don't like the idea of mandates, but encouragement is certainly possible. We have found that a good program is quite beneficial to us. And this is training people who are not going to be employed by us, but it's training people who will help to increase our markets and help our business. So at the same time, by doing this kind of training, we're increasing our markets, we're creating more jobs in our own companies, and we're creating good jobs for people, often people who will use our products, or often people who support our products. So this, to me, is self-evident as a good thing to do. And I'm sure that as more companies learn about this, they will do that. There is a lot of untapped potential in India, and basically skilling enables you to tap that potential. And you're right, we don't have enough jobs, but often it's because we don't have people educated to do those jobs. And entrepreneurship is glorified often, but in India, a lot of entrepreneurship is disguised unemployment. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you can't get any other job, work for yourself, and we will train you to do a good job of it.
That's wonderful. Do you think it's a funding problem? Do you think it's a mindset problem? Do you think it's covering the gap problem?
It's a mindset problem to start off with. Funding, we have now enough organizations in the ecosystem. It's about structuring a program. I mean, in NSDC, we fund for 10 years. And there is a moratorium. It's a pretty soft loan. There has to be some science behind it. We've got skill gap studies. If you go to the India map on our website on Knowledge Bank, you'll find the entire India map by state, by district, we've got skill gaps. Not only that, we've got the youth aspiration also there. So where the youth aspiration is high and the skill gap is high, for an entrepreneur, it's like putting 2 and 2 together and making 22 out of it. Whether it's enterprise or you want to open a business to employ people, but that's why we have defined that, and it's already there. And this is 2013 data. So it's like all very...
Before I throw it to the audience for questions, one of the most staggering numbers is a $100 billion opportunity. Is that right? Is skilling a $100 billion opportunity?
I suppose so. I hope so. I haven't computed that, but I have also heard it.
It's a much touted number. Any questions from the audience? Yes. Do introduce yourself, sir. The microphone is coming to you.
My name is Ajit Jangyani. I'm nobody. There was an article by Madhav Chavan on this. He said there are four legs that this stands on: government, the trainers, the trainees, and corporations. He said government has programs like this gentleman here. Assume you can shake him down and get the Aadhaar card and the bank account and all. They will loosen up some money. The corporates and the trainees don't seem to be making much of noise. Nader is exceptional. You know, he's way above the crowd. But most companies are not yelling. And nobody on the streets is saying, give me training. Most of the young guys hanging out and all are not exactly creating a big fuss.
Yeah, actually that's an interesting point, because there is no pull for skill development, because there is no, I don't think they see a gratification in it, or they see that their lives are going to be any better after the skilling. Yeah. Is that the question?
Yes, so unless they start yelling for it and corporations start adopting what Nader is saying, I really don't see any hope here. Do you?
No, I must say that a lot of corporations are doing it because they have to do it also, because I think the moment you expand, the first thing that you need is the skill sets to be able to expand. And a lot of companies talk about the triple bottom line. One is sustainable growth, because once you hit a certain scale in India, you face a huge problem of actually being able to deliver on that. But Mr. Godrej, how do you create the pull from the man on the street?
It's a good question, but if you have the right courses and they do see that there are jobs at the end of it, we do find, in the beginning it was hard to get the people, but as the courses get established, we do find more and more people coming, and including demands for a second level course for further upgradation.
Who pays for this? Are these youngsters willing to pay for it?
So far we are paying for a lot of the courses and counting the benefits in the ancillary benefits. But we are hoping that as we go along and the courses get well established, that the people will be able to pay for it. Hopefully, we'll ask them to pay for it after the course is over.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I must say on this question, UNFPA has done a survey in the country, and it was with regard to the post-2015 agenda, and very much on the world we want. And we questioned a lot of people, and skills was one of the highest on their agenda. So there is a huge outcry from young people themselves. If you talk with young people themselves, what they really want, especially in the rural areas, they want to have skills, and they want to have more access to education. Of course, they cannot, many people from rural areas cannot pay for all those education. So we have to make, with all this CSR money coming available, creating a bigger pool for young people where they can have.
And this would be a great opportunity.
Excellent.
You know, Atul, I want to get your view on this, because NSDC is also partnering with a lot of other private institutions like Team Lease and Manipal Institute, etc., which are doing the skilling work. So what is the formula that works at that ground level? Is it all subsidized in terms of courses, and is that the only way to get people in?
Well, let me just answer the question in three parts. One is, as far as mobilization is concerned, rightly said, people are not screaming and shouting for skilling right now. But having said that, with the STAR scheme, we are saying, first of all, you have to pay for your courses. So you get a stake in your in the deal by putting something on the table, and that something is the assessment fee. If you pass successfully, which you would try to because you've got some money involved there, you get a reward. And that reward gets to pay your training costs, and you might take a little bit home for yourself. So that's one part. Second is advertising. We have just completed just about 10 days of advertising on TV commercials, and we got more than 1 lakh calls, which we're trying to deal with. So there is that murmur coming up, and it can become a very big noise, and hopefully it will be a beautiful noise to hear. There is a call center we have set up, 088 000555. Now these are methods by which we are trying to reach out to the ecosystem and give a uniform, unbiased opinion on what skilling is all about. So these are the ways by which we are doing that. Then our training partners themselves are in whichever part of India they are. They understand that ecosystem very good. So they have job fairs, they have mobility fairs, they go around talking to the gram panchayats and the block development officers to try and motivate people coming out from there. The state governments are now even putting skilling programs in schools. Actually, here Haryana has taken the lead in this. They have introduced skilling programs from class 9 onwards, 9, 10th, 11th, 12th. So the people, because what needs to understand is, out of every 100 children that are enrolled in primary in India, only 18 reach college level. 82 really fall off somewhere on the way to college. And those who reach college also, they are in such competition to get into reputed universities where cutoffs are really running into 90s, that they don't get the course of their choice. So what harm has a guy who's got 40% marks done? He's also passed, you're given a certificate saying pass. But the person doesn't have much of a hope to get into anything worthwhile. Sure. Skilling may be the option here.
You have a question?
Hi, my name is Saurabh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Milap. We are one of the few organizations in India which do financing for the students to get the training, and we are also privileged to get some vocational training, and we are privileged to receive some support from NSDC as well. So just one learning on the gentleman's question is that, which none of us addressed earlier, is that the type of skill also matters.
I think Mr. Godrej spoke about the kind of courses.
Yeah, so there's a learner paid model where the person who's undergoing the training pays for the fees, and then there is a employer paid model. So when there are more hard skills which the trainee sees a very good delta in terms of his improvement, he's ready to pay. But there are a lot of skills which the so-called students they don't see the delta, and therefore there's a gap in terms of people who have those skills, and in those cases the corporates come in and they are ready to pay a finder's fees or basically a skilling fees for these. So this
is really interesting. Can you give us a breakup of what works? And I mean, where is the hard skill? Where is the pull there?
So basically, anything to do with a more office-based job, whether it's computer programming or networking, those where we see a pull is there from the students. But anywhere you go, for example, automobile repair or any of those so-called blue-collar jobs, you have to have more of a employer paid model, where the employer subsidizes the program, or it pays the training institute for giving him a skilled worker.
But you know, a lot of that is changing. I must tell you that I went to a village in Rajam, which is on the Orissa, Andhra Pradesh border. And the most popular skilling course over there was mobile phone repairs. And an average person earned about $800, which is not bad money over there because of this. So I think on the ground, I think the pull is again, you know, what works out there, you have to be able to kind of customize it.
That's why I'm saying you go back to the skill gap studies and you have those preferences already outlined. So it's there on the website for free. You just have to go ahead and study that in detail if you want to start an
entrepreneur. It's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Okay. That's why I'm here for.
Yes.
Thanks. I'm Lynn Smitham from the Kiowa Trust. If you look at training in lots of realms, it's moving to a very technology-based delivery platform. How do you see this affecting both, obviously, volumes of people that can get trained, but also the gender piece? How do you see that being able to affect that in India?
That's an interesting question. Is the technology platform and the delivery that it offers actually increasing the ability to reach out?
Definitely. I mean, there are these massively open online courses called MOOCs. That's another buzzword that's going around. It's to reach a large mass of people from a centralized place. But it's not just about, again, saying that, yeah, I've done a course like watching TV and then you go back home. You need to be assessed. It has to have a certain path, a certain outcome that's leading to it. So yes, for women, definitely there can be and there should be courses which are catered to delivering certain things for the woman, to whether be a woman entrepreneur at home or in the village or going out to work or going out in communities. And we are seeing a lot of proposals come through. So it's a very healthy sign. We just want more of them to come through. So we can talk about it. You can look at some of our websites, some of the women organizations listed there, study more in detail and come up with new ideas. We will be more than happy to fund them.
Yeah, and there are some good, for example, if you look in Africa to the M-Pesa model, where women are able to do using funds through the mobile phone. It's women who are moving much faster on this whole mobile issues than the men do right now. And if we want women to be change makers in societies, and we have seen from the Grameen program, etc., women are much more the change makers in society. This is an area where we can even invest far more in.
Any more questions? Yes.
I got a bit of answer from my neighbor. Thank you for that. My name is Paramita, and I come from MOOC Foundation. I just wanted to know something from you, sir, that given that you really work at a sector which is like one of the most critical sectors that currently India needs, and that's skill development, I was just wondering, how do you disaggregate the constituency that you work with? Because most importantly, many of the women or the older adolescents who really need the skills, I'm not sure whether they have access to the kind of services NSDC has to offer. And definitely, if we are talking specifically in the context of adolescents who are very prone to trafficking or issues around like unsafe migration, they do that or they fall into the trap because they really have to contribute to the family income, but they do not know which are the more respectful ways of getting into a skilled profession. So I'm just wondering that with your kind of array of services that you have, how do you actually target those who are most vulnerable and those who most need the skills with them, but currently do not have the mechanism or the conduit to access your services? Because definitely some of the organizations may not be in touch with them who are your grantees. I don't know the profile of your grantees, but it may so happen that some of the states which are very high on this issue of sex-related trafficking or trafficking for domestic labor, the adolescent girls do not have access to the information. So I'm just trying to understand, how do you crack that at that level?
Well, we are doing only general advertising. We are, in fact, one of our TV commercials is focusing on how a woman has come out from the house and become a retail executive and the whole her path to success. But having said that, we've got now 2,700 centers running all over India. across 122 training partners. Now, if you have such a, I mean, if you know of certain segments in certain parts of India which are neglected, best is to find a center nearby, and all these details are there on our website. So I think that's the best way to connect the two. All the information is there on our website. We are a very transparent organization. There's nothing, no information that I have in my desk which is not there on the website. So that is one thing we can work with.
I think it's a great point and a need gap that needs to be filled. So maybe some NGO can take up that challenge and link these two. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Helen Joseph. And in fact, I know of an organization, in fact, a construction industry that organizes training, skills training for construction workers. And a number of young boys have been trained on different things like masonry, carpentry, and form work, and a number of things. Now, what happens is that once they are trained, they are expected to look for jobs. Once they go on the site, what happens with most companies now is that they are put as contract, there's a contracting system. So they're not on the regular payroll of those companies. And as such, they do not get minimum wages. They are not paid regular salaries. They are not, in terms of the number of hours they work is much more, maybe 12 hours, 18 hours a day. And when you talk about construction industry, it's hard work. Sure. So if the corporate on the one hand talks a lot about social responsibility and, negates this very, very important aspect of the right of that particular individual to rest, to an equal, a fair wage, that is a contradiction. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed.
There is a lot of abuse, and I think corporates have to meet this halfway and with intent as well as with the lip service they provide. So I think that's a very good point.
May I just add to it?
Yes.
There is a construction sector skill council that's been formed. And they have representatives from all parts of the construction sector skills, sector as a whole. They might be a good starting point to bring out your, this grievance, how this can be handled in future. Because after all, the best way to, put pressure on such or to prevent this exploitation from happening in future is the people in that industry itself.
Yeah, in fact, talking about that, Mr. Ajit Gulabchand from HCC heads that, and he was telling me that a lot of the mandate now is to get best practices out there on the construction site. If you see, half the slums in India mushroom when there is a construction project because there is no housing or sanitation given to the workers who've come to build that building. So this arm of NSDC is doing a lot of work in ensuring the small contractors get projects only if they promise certain amount of work for the employees out there. We'll one last question and then we'll wrap up. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harsha Mukherjee. I'm the CEO of CSR Advisors. My question is, how much does the government contribute in the processes that you all do? And one thought that I would like to share, this is an election season. Maybe we should catch hold of all the politicians. They would support.
No, I think NSDC is very well funded by the government. And I think
we are using government money for this. So I'm actually thankful to the government for letting us do this kind of a deal. And even the STAR scheme, which is a reward scheme, is also from the government. 1,000 crores we're going to distribute in the next 1 year across 10 lakh people, of skilled people. So it's a very big mobilization drive, right?
Okay. One last question? Okay, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay, otherwise the gentleman over here is going to get me. Okay, we'll take yours and we'll take yours because you've been asking for it.
Just a quick question for Mr. Godrej. Are the corporates also looking at employing in some manner the differently abled? When I go to the Helen Keller Institute for the deaf and deaf-blind, I invariably find them finding their own ways of getting their skills developed, but then nothing more than doing some exhibitions of some bags and those kind of things. But there's no employment beyond that. So are corporates thinking around the lines for differently abled people?
Yes, as part of our diversity program, we are, and many corporates are looking at this.
Okay.
I've been traveling in small towns and rural areas, and what I find, young people, if they want to be trained, but they don't have the information, and even though NSTC may have many centers, it's still not saturating. Now, if I look at the private sector, apparently it's 30%, when they come up with a new product, 30% goes into marketing. How much are you contributing or investing in really getting your messages and availability of your program out?
Okay, not as a percentage, but it's a 40 crore campaign that's going across all of India. This call center, I mentioned 088 000 5555, that 5 fives, is to enable people to be able to give a missed call. All that you have to do is give a missed call, so it doesn't cost you anything. And luckily for us in India, the mobile phone penetration is very high. So that's one place to really start off with. Give a missed call, and you get a call back. And during the call back, you can ask these questions. Okay, look, I'm here, situated in this part of India. This I feel I would like to do. Where are the opportunities? And that's how the connect can be made. A lot of connect can be made by the NGOs who are working in various, as you rightly said, you've gone to the rural countryside, you know of people. Get them connected. You've got access to the net, and you can find out from yourself that which are the training providers are there in which part of India, and what kind of job roles are they doing, and accordingly you can connect them. So it's a joint effort. It's not one or the other which will work very well, but we work together.
Okay. On that note, we'll have the concluding remarks from the panel, and I'm going to start this way. Atul, if there is one thought that you would like to leave behind today after this discussion, the topic was the demographic dividend. How do we actually nurture it and allow it to flower? What would it be?
Well, hunar hai to qadar hai. And we can make a Honhar Bharat, and can make India into a superpower of skilled human resources, provided we all work together to make this a demographic dividend, and you reap it for the nation.
So I think that's a good marketing campaign, right?
Yeah, I would like to advocate of corporates to invest far more in life skills education, particularly for adolescent girls. We know that India might become an economic big power, but they only will become it if they work on gender equality. And we've seen that the countries who are doing well have a high degree of gender equality. We also know that companies who have a high shareholder value have a high gender equality in the board.
What can they do specifically? Because you've listed out a couple of things, Frederica. For instance, how they can engage with employees, how they can mentor women. What would your advice be to organizations that want to walk that path?
I guess the skills development should really, for example, look critically on what are the obstacles for women to access those skills development. So we really need to look at a case-to-case issue. UNFPA has wonderful curricula for life skills education, which are easily adaptable for skills training on both in the corporates, outside the corporates. So we need to look critically in every situation, what are the obstacles young women are facing typically. And for example, what we've seen already for years ago, toilets in schools is a critical one and an easy one to overcome. So good female toilets in companies is probably equally easy.
It starts from the most basic level.
Exactly.
Mr. Godrej, I'm going to let you have the last word.
Right. I think we should remember that the ROI on education is very high. So let's invest and figure out how we can figure out the return. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. And actually, Mr. Godrej has also got a little piece that he's prepared. And it'll be wonderful. I've rarely seen an MIT engineer who can write verse. So I'm very curious as well.
Demographers in the know claim our dependency ratio is indeed extremely low and will continue to stay so. Now, most are of a working age, few have reached the older stage, and as the growth begins to slow, our babies form a lesser flow, the adolescents who now grow into workers, we all know. But the demographic dividend, alas, could very quickly end if new recruits can't pull their weight, either because we discriminate against women or the outcast, as the case was in the past, or they lack in good education, which is a problem in our nation. The government has surely failed, and often they have been assailed. But business also has some reach. Can we step in and fill the breach? That's not our job, most would say. What if I tell you it can pay? Take a risk and don't be scared. Hire those who aren't prepared. Train them well as they work. They will be grateful. They won't shirk. Pay them less since you can, but train every woman and man. It doesn't take all that much, and the benefits are such you won't regret what you do, so help yourself and people too. Now there are those who would opine that businesses do just fine when business is all that they do. To some extent, this is true. Just one objective is efficient. An honest business seems sufficient to help society at large. And yet we are faced with the charge that for want of a level playing field, the benefits that business yield accrue to the managerial class, while they bypass the toiling mass. And hence was born CSR. And this can take us very far, but it entails a separation of the expenditure and generation of wealth. And yet we clearly know no problem solved by money flow alone. Some deep thought is required for good solutions to be inspired. And hence came this new paradigm. Why did it take so much time? Shared value makes a lot of sense when viewed through a certain lens. Now, externalities are the base on which one can make the case. There is a conflict that we face as we pursue the development race. In many a developing nation, there's a lack of education. We are then faced with climate change. And though it seems very strange, governments can't decide to take this problem in their stride. If business goes on as before, those problems will hit us for sure. So businesses themselves will gain by successfully avoiding pain. And if we summon up the will, we have the capital and skill to achieve most social goals. Not pouring money into holes, but based on a solid business case and working at a blistering pace. This can be social enterprise or businesses of any size. And to my mind, the real key for businesses is synergy. Good projects can always be found where there is a common ground. By this should be understood both business good and social good should be enhanced side by side. And we have found when this is tried, there is a constant feedback loop. Both society and the group do benefit in many ways. Shared value serves as well as pays. Your market strategy succeeds as you eschew wants for needs, and strategists will surely find their strategies get refined. All stakeholders get excited, and employees are most delighted as developments accelerated, new customers are created. At this stage, I really ought to salute Professor Michael Porter. The brilliant idea he conceived was admired and well received. But I would still like to state that we really didn't have to wait for Michael Porter to opine. The Tata Group did just fine long before his great insight. And I would also like to cite my illustrious forebear, Pirojsha Godrej, who could care for society at large and boldly took total charge of business and welfare as well. In between, as I can tell, we somewhat lost the caring ball. But then my niece took a call and called in Neera for advice. You will agree it's very nice that Dasra clearly made us see that we should turn to FSG. With confidence now I can say they know how to show the way. They worked with our entire team and mined the rich and endless seam of talent as well as empathy that in our group we could see. And from the dross extracted gold to build a program, build it big and bold. We called it Godrej, Good and Green. And what a journey it has been. If you permit me now to quote from a poem that I then wrote, you will then see what we mean by our Godrej, Good and Green. Godrej, Good and Green. For rapid growth of the nation, the big constraint is education. And so we chose to train 1 million. Good thing the number isn't billion. Some think that we are aiming high, but setting sights at the sky can help us reach a lofty height. And if we try with all our might, in 10 years, surely we'll succeed. Right now, we have to plant the seed. And at the start, we may be slow, but soon we'll be in fuller flow. And if we teach the youth to earn, enabling them to quickly learn, then all of us will get to spend the demographic dividend. Since then, we've made some progress. Our courses have seen good success. It's not employees that we train, but partners from whom we can gain. We see it as a true win-win. At first, we hurriedly plunged in, but now we want to take all care that we ensure we always share, as well as measure all benefits. And we will use all our wits, and we will take all the pains to maximize all the gains to business and society. And that's the win-win that we'll see. And what's the training that we do? I'll take the time to share a few. Saloni has worked out quite well. Young ladies trained for a 3-month spell. Of course, they learn some beauty skills, but what gives us real thrills? They get the confidence and poise, a sense of self-worth more than boys. Some of them quickly find good jobs, but others have it in their mind to set up businesses on their own. And this outcome has steadily grown. The course has been suitably padded. A business module has been added. And with the help of this course, those out of the labor force have not only got to learn, we have enabled them to earn. But what we think is really neat, this is no mere one-way street. The ladies get a loyalty card. My audience won't find it hard to figure out the benefit. They find the card to be a hit. Cosmetics at a special price is something they find very nice. For us, it's an incremental sale. There is a moral to this tale. Shared value is at its best when you pass the dual test of benefits equally shared. But still, we should be prepared to sometimes give and sometimes take. An honest effort is what we should make. Now, Vijay is a 3-week course, and rural retail is at the source. With just a job, some do stop, but others bravely set up shop. All find out what they learn increases ability to earn. For us, the useful contribution is enhancement of our distribution. Our business scope spreads far and wide, so we can take in our stride vocational training of many a kind, and quite a range you will find. And of course, if you insist, I could provide you with a list. Suffice for now is to say, the benefits are two-way. I recommend this approach. There'll be no cause for reproach. At first, train those whom you employ. Then later on, you can deploy to partners whom you help to grow. New business ideas will then flow. Then business and society can grow with harmony and synergy. Now, education's ROI has been known to be high, and better returns can be sought with courses to the point and short. Collectively, let's bridge the gap and avoid the demographic trap. If so, we can safely portend that the demographic dividend will accrue, and with this prize, all will get a chance to rise. Thank you.